Hello, good day everyone. This is Nelly and I'm going to report on emotion and personality under cognitive domain. So the first thing I would like us to look at are the different definitions of emotions. So first, emotions have distinct subjective feelings or affects associated with them. Okay, ang pangalawa, emotions are accompanied by bodily changes, mostly in the nervous system, and these produce associated changes in breathing, heart rate, muscle tension, blood chemistry, and facial bodily expressions. At ang pangatlo naman ay emotions are accompanied by distinct action tendencies or increases in the probabilities of certain behaviors. Ang halimbawa nito ay naglalakad ka sa gubat at bigla kang may nakitang malaking ahas. So, ang unang subjective feeling doon ay yung takot or fear. Okay? So, yun yung naaayon sa unang definition. Fear. Pangalawa naman, magkakaroon ngayon ng bodily changes. Kapag takot ka doon sa ahas na iyong nakita, maaaring bibilis ang iyong paghinga, bibilis ang pulso ng iyong puso, at of course, maaaring yung mukha mo magpapakita yan ng expression na takot na takot. So, yun yung pangalawang definition niya. At doon naman sa pangatlo, noong ikaw ay natakot at bumilis ang iyong paghinga, bumilis ang pulso ng iyong puso at nanlaki maaari ang iyong mga mata, ano ngayon ang action tendencies or maaari mong gawin? Kung ako yon, ako'y siguradong kakaripas na ng takbo. So, yun yung pangatlong definition naman. Yung tatakbo ka na dahil alam mo na yung ahas ay maaaring makamandag at kapag ikaw ay makagat ay maaari kang mamatay. Okay? So, iyon ang definitions ng emotions. Why are personality psychologists interested in emotions? One reason why emotions are important to psychology is that they play a critical role in shaping our thoughts and behaviors. Emotions can influence our attention, memory, decision making, and motivation, often in ways that are outside of our conscious awareness. For example, feeling anxious or fearful can narrow our attentional focus and impair our ability to process information accurately, while feeling happy or motivated can broaden our attentional focus and enhance our creativity and problem-solving abilities. In addition to their cognitive and behavioral effects, emotions also have a physiological basis. Emotions can trigger changes in heart rate, breathing, hormone levels, and other bodily functions which can impact our physical health and well-being. For example, chronic stress and negative emotions have been linked to a range of health problems including cardiovascular disease, immune dysfunction, and mental health disorders. Moreover, emotions are essential to social and interpersonal interactions. They provide us with a way to express and communicate our feelings to others and help us to navigate the social world by conveying information about our intentions, needs, and preferences. Emotions also play a key role in the formation and maintenance of social relationships and can influence our attraction to others, our social support, and our ability to resolve conflicts. Lastly, emotions are an important area of study in psychology due to their diverse and pervasive effects in human experience and behavior. Understanding the nature, causes, and consequences of emotions can provide insights into the underlying mechanisms of psychological and physiological functioning and inform the development of interventions aimed at improving health and well-being. Now let's move on to emotional states versus emotional traits. So what are these? First, emotional states and emotional traits are two important concepts in the field of psychology that relate to the experience and expression of emotions. So, emotional states refer to the temporary and situation-specific emotional experiences that an individual may have in response to a particular event or situation. For example, feeling happy after receiving good news, or feeling anxious before an important exam are examples of emotional states. How about emotional traits? Emotional traits refer to the relatively stable and enduring emotional characteristics or dispositions that an individual may exhibit over time regardless of the situation. For example, an individual who tends to experience high levels of anxiety or impulsivity across different situations may be said to have an emotional trait related to these emotions. Research has shown that emotional states and traits have different implications for mental health and well-being. For example, individuals who experience frequent and intense negative emotional states may be at higher risk for developing mental health problems such as depression or anxiety disorders. In contrast, individuals with negative emotional traits may be at higher risk for developing personality disorders or other long-term maladaptive patterns of emotional functioning. Understanding the differences between emotional states and traits can help individuals and mental health professionals develop more effective strategies for managing and regulating emotions. For example, individuals who experience frequent negative emotional states may benefit from learning mindfulness or cognitive behavioral strategies to help them manage their emotions in the moment, while individuals with negative emotional traits may benefit from longer-term therapeutic interventions aimed at addressing underlying emotional vulnerabilities and promoting more adaptive emotional functioning. Now let's proceed to categorical versus dimensional approach to emotions. First, let's look at the categorical approach. The categorical approach to emotions views emotions as distinct, discrete categories that can be identified based on their unique and characteristic features. This approach assumes that emotions have a clear and specific set of physiological and behavioral responses, and that each emotion represents a unique and distinct category. For example, emotions such as anger, sadness, and fear are considered to be discrete categories that can be reliably identified based on their characteristic facial expressions, vocalizations, and bodily sensations. Next, dimensional approach. The dimensional approach is an approach to understanding emotions that views them as being on a continuum. This approach, or this means that emotions are seen as existing on a spectrum, with some emotions being more similar to each other than others. In this approach, emotions are identified by the degree to which they activate various dimensions such as valence, or the positive or versus negative, arousal or intensity, and approach versus withdrawal or action tendencies. Now, let's look at this diagram showing the differences between categorical and dimensional approaches to emotions. So, at the center, on the left side, we can see the unpleasant emotions, namely sad, grouchy, unhappy, and blue. So, these are what we call the categorical dimensional emotions. Okay, and if with high activation, which is the dimensional approach, the person will feel distressed, anxious, annoyed, and hostile. And okay, with low activation, the person will feel bored, drowsy, sluggish, and dull. On the right side, with the categorical dimensional emotions, okay, we have the pleasant emotions, namely happy, delightful, cheerful, and pleased. With high activation, the dimensional approach, in the dimensional approach, the person will feel elated, excited, lively, and enthusiastic. And with low activation, the person with those pleasant emotions will feel relaxed, content, calm, and at rest. So now you can see that the categorical dimensional approach to emotions are those that are specific emotions. Okay, they are either pleasant or unpleasant. And okay, with high and low activations, okay, they will feel either higher or lower emotions. So those are the dimensional approaches. Okay, so let's proceed now to content versus style of emotional life. Okay, what are these? Emotional life refers to the subjective experiences, thoughts, and behaviors that are associated with emotions such as happiness, sadness, anger, fear, and love. It includes the ways in which individuals perceive, interpret, and respond to their internal and external environments. Emotional life plays a crucial role in human development, mental health, and social interactions. It influences how individuals perceive themselves, relate to others, and navigate life's challenges. Understanding emotional life is essential for self-awareness, personal growth, and healthy relationships. Now, there are two aspects of emotional life, namely content emotional life and style of emotional life. The content of emotional life is the what of a person's emotional life. So, the content of emotional life refers to the specific emotions, feelings, and subjective experiences that an individual may have in relation or in response to internal or external stimuli. These can include a wide range of emotions such as happiness, sadness, anger, fear, love, guilt, shame, envy, and more. Understanding the content of emotional life is important for self-awareness, personal growth, and mental health, as it can help individuals identify and manage their emotions more effectively. By recognizing and labeling their emotions, individuals can learn to express them in healthy and constructive ways, as well as develop coping strategies to manage difficult emotions. Additionally, the content of emotional life can influence behavior, thoughts, and decision making, making it an important factor in understanding human psychology and social interactions. Now, let's look at happiness and life satisfaction. Happiness and life satisfaction, okay, which is under content of emotional life. So, in the list of primary emotions, happiness or joy are typically the only pleasant emotions mentioned. In trait approaches to emotion, the major pleasant disposition is happiness and the associated feelings of being satisfied with one's life. According to Aristotle, happiness or eudaimonia is the ultimate goal or of human life and can be attained through a virtuous life. Now, what is a virtuous life? Okay, a virtuous life is a life with virtue, of course. And for Aristotle, virtue is a mean between excess and deficiency, and it involves cultivating good habits and character traits through practice and education. Now, there are two complementary components of happiness. They are life satisfaction component and hedonic component. Life satisfaction component. It is a cognitive component of happiness that refers to an individual's overall evaluation of their life based on their own standards, values, and expectations. It reflects a person's level of satisfaction with their life as a whole and is typically measured using self-report questionnaires. So, research has consistently shown that life satisfaction is positively associated with various measures of well-being, such as happiness, positive affect, and subjective well-being. For example, a meta-thesis or meta-analysis by Diner and his colleagues found a strong positive correlation between life satisfaction and overall subjective well-being across numerous studies and cultures. Furthermore, high levels of life satisfaction have been linked to a range of positive outcomes, including better physical health, greater resilience, higher levels of social support, and more effective coping strategies. To enhance life satisfaction, individuals may engage in activities that align with their personal values and goals, foster positive relationships, and promote a sense of meaning and purpose in life. Additionally, certain interventions, such as positive psychology interventions, have been shown to increase life satisfaction. The hedonic component of happiness refers to the experience of positive emotions and the absence of negative emotions such as joy, pleasure, contentment, and satisfaction. It is focused on the subjective experience of pleasure and enjoyment in the moment. Hedonic happiness is often associated with the pursuit of pleasure, self-gratification, and instant gratification. So, hedonic happiness, according to research, suggests that it is associated with the activity of the brain's reward system, which is responsible for processing pleasure and motivation. Several brain areas have been identified as key players in hedonic happiness, including the prefrontal cortex, the striatum, and the amygdala. However, while the pursuit of hedonic happiness can be enjoyable in the short term, it may not necessarily lead to long-term life satisfaction and well-being. Therefore, researchers argue that the hedonic component of happiness needs to be complemented by the eudaimonic component, which focuses on a sense of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in life. Examples of hedonic happiness: eating delicious food such as a favorite dessert or a home-cooked meal, listening to music that makes you feel happy or uplifted, spending time with loved ones such as friends or family members, taking a relaxing bath or getting a massage, watching a funny movie or TV show that makes you laugh, engaging in a favorite hobby or pastime such as painting, playing sports, or reading a book, traveling to a new or exciting destination, or participating in a fun or thrilling activity such as skydiving or roller coaster riding. Now, let's talk more about happiness. What good is happiness? While happiness is a desirable state of being, of course, it also has practical benefits in many aspects of life. And according to Diner, happy people tend to have better physical health, stronger immune systems, and longer lifespans, and are more sociable and outgoing. Happy people also engage in pro-social behaviors such as helping others and volunteering, which can enhance their sense of social connectedness and contribute to their well-being. Happiness can have a positive influence on how others perceive and interact with us. Happy individuals are often seen as more likable, approachable, and trustworthy, which can facilitate the formation of new social connections and the strengthening of existing ones. Okay, now, does money make a person happy? Well, according to Diner, money can contribute to happiness up to a certain point, beyond which its effects are limited or even negative. Once people have enough money to meet their basic needs and have some discretionary income, additional wealth does not necessarily lead to greater happiness. Other factors such as social relationships, meaningful work, and personal fulfillment may play a more important role in long-term happiness. So, may study doon sa USA, tiningnan nila yung level ng happiness ng mga tao according to their income. So, yung mga hindi mataas ang income, habang tumataas yung kanilang income, ay tumataas din ang level ng kanilang happiness. Pero noong narating na nila yung point na mi-meet na lahat ng kanilang needs, although tumataas pa yung kanilang income, nakita doon na yung level ng kanilang happiness ay hindi na siya tumataas. So, ang ibig sabihin nun ay nagiging masaya po ang isang tao, okay, na tumataas ang kanyang sahod o dumadami ang kanyang pera kapag hindi pa na-meet ang kanyang mga needs. Pero once na na-meet na ang kanyang mga needs, kahit madagdagan pa ang kanyang income ay hindi na maaring hindi na madadagdagan yung level ng kanyang happiness. So, ang maaaring makapagdagdag ng happiness ng isang tao aside from money ay yung pagkakaroon ng social relationships, yung meaningful na trabaho, at yung personal fulfillment na okay ka na, masaya ka na kung ano yung inyong naabot sa buhay. Okay? So, possessions and wealth are important for happiness, but they actually be negatively related to well-being. People who prioritize materialistic values are less happy and more prone to anxiety and depression than those who prioritize other values such as personal growth, social relationships, and community involvement. Ibig pong sabihin nito na kapag ang isang tao, ang pinaprioritize niya sa kanyang buhay ay magpayaman o yung pera lamang o mga bagay-bagay lamang, maaring sila ay hindi masyadong masaya, okay, they might be prone to anxiety and depression, okay, dahil yung kanyang happiness o kanilang happiness ay nakasalalay doon sa materialistic values. Okay? Ang alam naman natin ng isang material na bagay ay maaaring madagdagan at maaari ding mawala. Okay? So, kapag nawala yung isang bagay na nagdudulot ng happiness sa isang tao, of course, magdi-decline na din ang happiness ng taong ito. Ayan. So, mas maganda daw kapag tayo po ay magtuon sa ating pong paglago, sa ating pagkakaroon ng magandang relasyon sa ating mga kapwa, at magkaroon po ng part, okay, sa improvement and development ng ating community. Okay. Now, what is known about happy people? Aid and Larson propose that happy individuals have a cognitive processing style that is characterized by a positive bias. This means that they tend to interpret events and situations in a positive light, focusing on positive aspects and downplaying negative aspects. They also tend to have higher levels of optimism and self esteem and experience more positive emotions such as joy, love, and contentment. So, happy people also tend to have stronger social relationships as they are more likely to engage in positive social interactions and have larger social networks. They are also more likely to engage in activities that promote well-being, such as exercise, hobbies, and volunteering. What is known about happy people? Aid and Larson proposed that happy individuals have a cognitive processing style that is characterized by a positive bias. This means that they tend to interpret events and situations in a positive light, focusing on positive aspects and downplaying negative aspects. They also tend to have higher levels of optimism and self-esteem and experience more positive emotions such as joy, love, and contentment. Happy people also tend to have stronger social relationships as they are more likely to engage in positive social interactions and have larger social networks. They are also more likely to engage in activities that promote well-being, such as exercise, hobbies, and volunteering. In addition, Aid and Larson found that happy people tend to have a greater sense of meaning and purpose in life, which contributes to their overall well-being. They also tend to have a greater sense of control over their lives and are more resilient in the face of adversity. Overall, Aid and Larson suggests that happy people have a positive outlook on life, strong social relationships, engage in activities that promote well-being, have a sense of meaning and purpose, and feel in control of their lives. Is happiness more likely among young, middle-aged, or older people? Well, research on the relationship between age and happiness suggests that there is no clear consensus on whether happiness is more likely among young, middle-aged, or older people. So some studies suggest that happiness may be higher among younger individuals, while others suggest that it may increase with age or remain relatively stable across the lifespan. For example, a large-scale survey of adults in the United States found that happiness levels were highest among younger individuals ages 18 to 25 and declined gradually with age, with a slight increase among individuals aged 65 and older. However, other studies have found that happiness remains relatively stable across the lifespan with no significant age-related differences. Well, it is important to note that factors such as health, social support, and life circumstances may play a significant role in determining happiness across the lifespan, and that individual differences in personality and coping strategies may also contribute to variability in happiness level. So, who is happy? In their book, Who is Happy?, Meyers and Diner describe happy people in different aspects. First, in the aspect of traits such as self-esteem, personal control, optimism, and extroversion. They say happy people tend to like themselves and feel a sense of personal control. They are also optimistic and are more extroverted. It is not known though if these traits cause happiness or being happy leads to these traits. Ibig pong sabihin, sinasabi po ng dalawang authors na ito na ang happiness ay nagbibigay o nagdudulot ng magandang self-esteem, personal growth, optimism, and extraversion. Or maaari ring ang mga traits na ito ang siyang nagdudulot ng happiness. Pangalawa ay relationships. Those with more friends are happier. So, people who can name several friends are healthier and happier than people who have few or no friends. So, married people are more likely to describe themselves as very happy than those who never married, are divorced, or separated. Third is flow. People with greater work satisfaction have better life satisfaction too. And fourth is faith. Religious people report higher levels of happiness. Surveys have shown that people who are strongly religious are twice as likely to say they are very happy. Faith seems to help people to cope with a crisis. Now, let's talk about personality and well-being. So, psychologists Paul Costa and Robert McRae concluded that demographic variables such as gender, age, ethnicity, and income accounted for only about 10 to 15% of the variation in happiness, and estimate confirmed by others. Tim Smith and his colleagues found in their study that individuals who scored high on measures of emotional stability or low neuroticism reported higher levels of subjective well-being and life satisfaction, while those who scored low on this trait reported lower levels of well-being. Now, let's talk about extroversion versus neuroticism. Extroversion and neuroticism are two of the 5 major personality traits that are widely studied in the field of psychology. Extroversion refers to a tendency towards being outgoing, sociable, and assertive. People who score high in extroversion are often energized by social interaction, enjoy being the center of attention, and may seek out new experiences and adventures. In contrast, people who score low in extroversion may prefer quiet and solitary activities and may feel drained or overwhelmed by too much social stimulation. Neuroticism, on the other hand, refers to a tendency towards emotional instability, negative emotions, and anxiety. People who score high in neuroticism may be prone to worry, fear, and self-doubt, and may experience strong emotional reactions to stress and challenges. In contrast, people who score low in neuroticism tend to be more emotionally stable, resilient, and able to cope with stress and adversity. Now, let's look at this diagram showing extroversion versus neuroticism. So, tingnan po muna natin yung extroversion trait. Ang halimbawa nito, ang isang tao ay nakatanggap ng balitang mapupromote siya sa kanyang trabaho. So, yung kanyang narinig na yun, iyon yung sitwasyon that is potentially able to elicit positive affect. Ano naman ngayon ang magiging extroversion trait ng taong ito? Of course, okay, dahil magkakaroon siya ng promotion, magkakaroon siya ng positive emotionality, and of course, magi-increase yung kanyang assertiveness. At kapag nagkaroon siya ng positive emotionality and assertiveness, makakaramdam siya ngayon ng positive affects, at ang positive affects ay, of course, happiness. At kapag nakaramdam ng happiness o kaligayahan ang isang tao, ang kanyang subjective well-being, of course, ay magkakaroon siya ngayon ng positive emotions, ng happiness and gratitude, okay? At magkakaroon siya ng, or makakaramdam siya ng satisfied or satisfaction sa kanyang buhay at magkakaroon siya, of course, ng increased subjective well-being. Okay. So, dito naman sa baba, ito naman yung sitwasyon na makakapagdulot ng negative affect. Okay, halimbawa, baliktarin natin yung sitwasyon. Yung isang tao nakarinig ng balita na isa siya sa mga malili-off dahil hindi nakakayanin ng kanyang kumpanya na sahuran silang lahat. So, kapag ang isang tao ay nakarinig ng balitang siya ay malili-off, of course, magdudulot ito ng neuroticism trait. So, ano naman yung posibleng neuroticism trait na maidudulot nito? Of course, okay, magkakaroon siya ng anxiety or depression or stress. Ayan. So, kapag nagkaroon ng anxiety, depression, or stress yung isang tao, magkakaroon naman siya ng negative affect. Okay. Ano naman yung kanyang magiging affect? Of course, okay, magkakaroon na siya ng negative na emotion. Ayan. So, in the same way na may nakaramdam siya ng anxiety and depression or emotional instability, ganun din ang kanyang mararanasan dito sa negative affect. Okay? So, in addition to that, magiging sad siya, of course, magiging anxious or mag-worry siya about her or his future. At ang magiging subjective well-being nito ay, of course, yung tao magkakaroon na ng unstable emotion, magkakaroon na yan ng negative rumination. Okay, yung negative rumination na sinasabi natin dito ay maaalala na niya yung mga negative na nangyari sa kanyang buhay at magkakaroon na rin siya ng impaired social and occupational functioning, tapos reduced quality of life, at maaari ring magkakaroon siya ng increased risk of physical and mental health problems. So, ayon din sa pag-aaral, nakita nila na ang mga taong mataas sa neuroticism ay mas naaalala nila yung mga negative na experiences nila kaysa sa kanilang mga positive experiences. So, ito naman yung mga advice na ibinigay ng mga iba't ibang psychologists kung paano maging masaya ang isang tao. So, una is spend time with other people, particularly friends, family, and loved ones. The one characteristic common to most happy people is a disposition to be sociable, to draw satisfaction from being with other people. Cultivate an interest in other people. Go out of your way to spend time with friends and loved ones and try to get to know those around you. So, wag lamang po tayong magmugmok sa ating mga tahanan upang sa ganon ay mas maranasan po natin yung kasiyahan na idudulot po ng makakasama natin ng ibang mga tao. Particularly ang ating mga kaibigan, ang ating family, at ng mga taong mahalaga sa ating buhay. Pangalawa is seek challenge and meaning in work. If satisfying relationships are the first priority, the second is having work that you find enjoyable. So, happy people enjoy their work and work hard at what they do. Yes, if you do not find your current work rewarding, then consider switching to something that you find more worthwhile. Work that is what is challenging, but within your skill level is usually the most satisfying. Okay, so yan, napakalaga po pala na tayo ay nag-i-enjoy sa ating trabaho. So, minsan, ang tinitingnan lamang po natin ay yung ating sahod, pero ang katotohanan niyan, mas mahalaga po pala yung ini-enjoy natin ang ating trabaho. Okay, upang sa ganon ay mas masaya po tayo. Dahil, kapag hindi po natin gusto yung trabaho natin, though we are being well paid, maaring mapagod tayo, and one day, okay, we may just want to leave the job, okay, because we are no longer happy with it. Okay, at ang pangatlo ay look for ways to be helpful to others. Helping others can make us feel good about ourselves and give us the feeling that our life is meaningful. Helping others thereby provides a boost in self-esteem. So helping has a second benefit as well. Helping someone else can take your mind off your own problems or can make your problems seem little by comparison. There are plenty of worthy causes and plenty of organizations that welcome volunteers, okay, according to this psychologist. So, ibig sabihin, nagiging masaya din po pala tayo kapag tayo po ay nakakatulong sa iba. Kaya, maghanap po tayo or tumingin po tayo ng iba't ibang kaparaanan na makatulong sa iba para sa ganun ay maging mas masaya po tayo. Ang pang-apat po ay take time out for yourself. So, enjoy the activities that give you pleasure. Don't wait to find time for your favorite hobby or activity. Instead, make time. So, kadalasan kasi sinasabi natin, gusto kong mamasyal, pero sobrang dami ng trabaho ko, wala akong time ngayon. But if we really want to do something for ourselves or for leisure, we have to make time for it. Okay? Panlima ay stay in shape. Exercise is positively associated with emotional well-being. Exercise need not be intense or all that frequent to provide the emotional benefit. Ayan. So, napakahalaga rin po pala na magkakaroon tayo ng regular exercise, okay, upang sa ganun ay, okay, magiging healthy po tayo. Of course, okay, when we say stay in shape, okay, hindi lamang po tayo healthy. At the same time, okay, if you are in shape, hindi ka din yung masyadong mabigat, okay. So, yan, napakahalaga po pala for us, okay, to make time or to find time, okay, to exercise regularly to stay in shape because this can elicit happiness sa ating buhay. Pang-anim ay have a plan but be open to new experiences. So, having an organized life allows a person to accomplish much. Okay, minsan dahil disorganized tayo or unorganized tayo, ang hirap-hirap pong gumalaw, okay, dahil hindi natin alam kung ano yung dapat nating gawin o isunod nating gawin. Kaya sabi nito, ang sabi ng mga psychologist ay napakahalagang meron po tayong plano. And sabi din nila that we have to be open to new experiences. Ang ibig pong sabihin nito ay meron po mga bagay-bagay na ma-experience natin along the way, okay, kapag sumubok po tayo ng mga bagong bagay, and we have to be open for that, okay? We have to be flexible too, para matanggap po natin yung mga bagong experiences po sa buhay, and that can actually cause happiness sa atin din. So, pang-pito ay be optimistic. Put on a smiling face, whistle a happy tune, look for the silver lining in every cloud. Yes, sure. It sounds too good to be true, but acting happy and trying to look on the bright side of things can go a long way toward making you feel happy. Now, try to avoid negative thinking. Don't make pessimistic statements even to yourself. Convince yourself that the cup really is half full instead of half empty. So, ibig pong sabihin nito, yung maging positive po tayo, okay, sa pananaw sa buhay. Sa halip na ang tinitingnan natin or ang minamagnify natin ay yung mga hindi magandang nangyayari sa ating buhay o sa ating kapaligiran, let's look at the bright side of things. Okay, upang sa ganun, magkakaroon po tayo ng kasiyahan. Okay? Ang pangwalo at huli ay don't let things get blown out of proportion. Sometimes when something bad happens, it seems like the end of the world, right? So happy people have the ability to step back and see things in perspective. Happy people think about their options and about the other things in their lives that are going well. So they think about what they can do to work on their problems or what to avoid in the future. But they don't think it is the end of the world, often asking themselves, what's the worst that can come of this? Will help put things in perspective. So, ayan. Narako na po tayo sa unpleasant emotions. And under unpleasant emotions, i-discuss po natin dito ang trait anxiety and neuroticism, depression, and anger. Okay, una po nating i-discuss dito ay ang trait anxiety and neuroticism. Okay, so trait anxiety and neuroticism is one of the big 5 dimensions of personality, and it is present in some form in every major trait theory of personality. Different researchers have used different terms for neuroticism, such as emotional instability, anxiety proneness, and negative affectivity. Now, neuroticism, okay, as emotional instability. Emotional instability refers to a personality trait characterized by intense and rapidly changing emotions as well as difficulty regulating these emotions. Individuals with high levels of emotional instability may experience strong emotional reactions to relatively minor events and may have difficulty returning to a baseline emotional state once they have become upset or distressed. Ang ibig pong sabihin nito, kapag ang isang tao ay merong emotional instability, okay, sila po yung mahirap pakalmahin. Kapag magalit ang mga ito, mahirap po silang pakalmahin, okay, dahil iyon po yung laging nangyayari sa kanila. So, nasanay na sila sa ganong kalagayan, kaya kahit pa subukan nilang tumigil, hindi sila agad-agad makapagpigil sa kanilang, okay, galit kapag sila po ay nagagalit. Okay? So, ito naman, neuroticism as anxiety proneness. Anxiety proneness refers to a personality trait characterized by a heightened tendency to experience anxiety or worry in response to stressful or threatening situations. Individuals who are high in anxiety proneness may be more likely to perceive situations as threatening and may have a harder time coping with stress and uncertainty. They may also be more likely to experience physical symptoms of anxiety such as heart palpitations, sweating, or shortness of breath. Anxiety proneness is often viewed as a stable trait that is relatively consistent across time and situations and may be influenced by a range of genetic, environmental, and psychological factors. While some degree of anxiety proneness may be normal and adaptive, particularly in situations where vigilance and caution are warranted, excessively high levels of anxiety proneness can actually interfere with daily functioning, and it could lead to significant distress and impairment. Ayan. So, darako naman po tayo sa negative affectivity. Okay, negative affectivity refers to a personality trait characterized by a general tendency to experience negative emotions such as anxiety, sadness, anger, and fear across a wide range of situations and circumstances. Individuals who are high in negative affectivity may be more prone to experiencing intense and persistent negative emotions and may have difficulty recovering from negative events or setbacks. So, negative affectivity is often viewed as a stable trait that is relatively consistent across time and situations and may be influenced by a range of genetic, environmental, and psychological factors. Okay? So, ayan. Tingnan po natin muli ang neuroticism. Okay? Ano po yung mga adjectives na nagamit para ilarawan po ang neuroticism? Ito po yung mga salitang moody, touchy, irritable, anxious, unstable, pessimistic, and complaining. So, kapag ang isang tao ay mataas ang kanyang neuroticism, ito po yung maaaring maging adjectives na magagamit sa paglalarawan sa kanila. Ayan. Okay? Now, tingnan natin yung development ng neuroticism. So, dito pag-uusapan natin ang biological theory at cognitive theories. Okay? So, una, tingnan po natin dito kay Einstein's biological theory. So, neuroticism is due primarily to a tendency of the limbic system in the brain to become easily activated. Okay? The limbic system is the part of the brain responsible for emotion and the fight or flight reaction. If someone has a limbic system that is easily activated, then the person probably has frequent episodes of emotion, particularly emotions associated with flight, such as anxiety, fear, and worry, and with fights such as anger, irritation, and annoyance. Okay? So, kung makita po natin dito sa image na ito, yung ating limbic system, okay, ay nandoon po sa kailaliliman ng ating pong brain. Ayan. So, tingnan po natin dito. Ang ASIC arguments in favor of ito naman yung mga advice na ibinigay ng mga iba't ibang psychologists kung paano maging masaya ang isang tao. So, una is spend time with other people, particularly friends, family, and loved ones. The one characteristic common to most happy people is a disposition to be sociable, to draw satisfaction from being with other people. Cultivate an interest in other people. Go out of your way to spend time with friends and loved ones and try to get to know those around you. So, wag lamang po tayong magmugmok sa ating mga tahanan upang sa ganon ay mas maranasan po natin yung kasiyahan na idudulot po ng makakasama natin ng ibang mga tao. Particularly ang ating mga kaibigan, ang ating family, at ng mga taong mahalaga sa ating buhay. Pangalawa is seek challenge and meaning in work. If satisfying relationships are the first priority, the second is having work that you find enjoyable. So, happy people enjoy their work and work hard at what they do. Yes, if you do not find your current work rewarding, then consider switching to something that you find more worthwhile. Work that is what is challenging, but within your skill level is usually the most satisfying. Okay, so yan, napakalaga po pala na tayo ay nag-i-enjoy sa ating trabaho. So, minsan, ang tinitingnan lamang po natin ay yung ating sahod, pero ang katotohanan niyan, mas mahalaga po pala yung ini-enjoy natin ng ating trabaho. Okay, upang sa ganon ay mas masaya po tayo. Dahil, kapag hindi po natin gusto yung trabaho natin, though we are being well paid, maaring mapagod tayo and one day, okay, we may just want to leave the job, okay, because we are no longer happy with it. Okay, at ang pangatlo ay look for ways to be helpful to others. Helping others can make us feel good about ourselves and give us the feeling that our life is meaningful. Helping others thereby provides a boost in self-esteem. So helping has a second benefit as well. Helping someone else can take your mind off your own problems or can make your problems seem little by comparison. There are plenty of worthy causes and plenty of organizations that welcome volunteers, okay, according to this psychologist. So, ibig sabihin, nagiging masaya din po pala tayo kapag tayo po ay nakakatulong sa iba. Kaya, maghanap po tayo or tumingin po tayo ng iba't ibang kaparaanan na makatulong sa iba para sa ganon ay maging mas masaya po tayo. Ang pang-apat po ay take time out for yourself. So, enjoy the activities that give you pleasure. Don't wait to find time for your favorite hobby or activity. Instead, make time. So, kadalasan kasi sinasabi natin, oh, gusto kong mamasyal, pero sobrang dami ng trabaho ko, wala akong time ngayon. But if we really want to do something for ourselves or for leisure, we have to make time for it. Okay? Panlima ay stay in shape. Exercise is positively associated with emotional well-being. Exercise need not be intense or all that frequent to provide the emotional benefit. Ayan. So, napakahalaga rin po pala na magkakaroon tayo ng regular exercise, okay, upang sa ganun ay, okay, magiging healthy po tayo. Of course, okay, when we say stay in shape, okay, hindi lamang po tayo healthy. At the same time, okay, if you are in shape, hindi ka din yung masyadong mabigat, okay. So, yan, napakahalaga po pala for us, okay, to make time or to find time, okay, to exercise regularly to stay in shape because this can elicit happiness sa ating buhay. Pang-anim ay have a plan but be open to new experiences. So, having an organized life allows a person to accomplish much. Okay, minsan, dahil disorganized tayo or unorganized tayo, ang hirap-hirap pong gumalaw, okay, dahil hindi natin alam kung ano yung dapat nating gawin o isunod nating gawin. Kaya sabi nito, ang sabi ng mga psychologist ay napakahalagang meron po tayong plano. And sabi din nila that we have to be open to new experiences. Ang ibig pong sabihin nito ay meron po mga bagay-bagay na ma-experience natin along the way, okay, kapag sumubok po tayo ng mga bagong bagay, and we have to be open for that, okay? We have to be flexible too, para matanggap po natin yung mga bagong experiences po sa buhay, and that can actually cause happiness sa atin din. So, pang-pito ay be optimistic. Put on a smiling face, whistle a happy tune, look for the silver lining in every cloud. Yes, sure. It sounds too good to be true, but acting happy and trying to look on the bright side of things can go a long way toward making you feel happy. Now, try to avoid negative thinking. Don't make pessimistic statements even to yourself. Convince yourself that the cup really is half full instead of half empty. So, ibig pong sabihin nito, yung maging positive po tayo, okay, sa pananaw sa buhay. Sa halip na ang tinitingnan natin or ang minamagnify natin ay yung mga hindi magandang nangyayari sa ating buhay o sa ating kapaligiran, let's look at the bright side of things. Okay, upang sa ganun, magkakaroon po tayo ng kasiyahan. Okay? Ang pangwalo at huli ay don't let things get blown out of proportion. Sometimes when something bad happens, it seems like the end of the world, right? So happy people have the ability to step back and see things in perspective. Happy people think about their options and about the other things in their lives that are going well. So they think about what they can do to work on their problems or what to avoid in the future. But they don't think it is the end of the world, often asking themselves, what's the worst that can come of this? Will help put things in perspective. So, ayan. Narako na po tayo sa unpleasant emotions. And under unpleasant emotions, i-discuss po natin dito ang trait anxiety and neuroticism, depression, and anger. Okay, una po nating i-discuss dito ay ang trait anxiety and neuroticism. Okay, so trait anxiety and neuroticism is one of the big 5 dimensions of personality, and it is present in some form in every major trait theory of personality. different researchers have used different terms for neuroticism, such as emotional instability, anxiety proneness, and negative affectivity. Now, tingnan po natin dito ang neuroticism as high emotional instability, which refers to a personality trait characterized by intense and rapidly changing emotions as well as difficulty regulating these emotions. So, yung mga taong mataas po ang kanilang neuroticism ay madalas pong mag-iba ang kanilang emosyon at nahihirapan din po nilang i-control or i-regulate ang emosyon na ito. Ayan. So, pangalawa, neuroticism as anxiety proneness. So, ano po ito? Anxiety proneness refers to a personality trait characterized by a heightened tendency to experience anxiety or worry in response to stressful or threatening situations. So, individuals who are high in anxiety proneness may be more likely to perceive situations as threatening and may have a harder time coping with stress and uncertainty. So, they may also be more likely to experience physical symptoms of anxiety such as heart palpitations, sweating, or shortness of breath. Okay? So, ang mga tao pong mataas ang kanilang neuroticism ay prone po sila sa anxiety. Ayan. So, kapag mayroon po silang na-experience na hindi magandang sitwasyon, okay, sila po ay mahihirapan na mag-cope nito. Kaya mai-stress po sila. At ayan, magkakaroon na po ng bodily changes. Yan, nagkakaroon na ng heart palpitations, sweating, at yung shortness of breath. Okay? So, sunod po ay neuroticism as negative affectivity. So, negative affectivity refers to a personality trait characterized by a general tendency to experience negative emotions such as anxiety, sadness, anger, and fear across a wide range of situations and circumstances. So, individuals who are high in negative affectivity may be more prone to experiencing intense and persistent negative emotions and may have difficulty recovering from negative events or setbacks. Negative affectivity is often associated with a range of mental health problems, including anxiety, depression, and personality disorder. Ayan. So, kapag ang isang tao ay mataas ang kanyang neuroticism, ayan, prone sila sa negative affectivity. Ibig sabihin ay madalas po silang makapag-experience ng anxiety, ng sadness, anger, and fear, okay, sa lahat ng circumstances sa kanilang buhay. Okay? Sila rin yung mga taong magkakaroon lagi ng yung nahihirapan po silang mag-recover, okay, from negative events. Halimbawa, naka-experience sila ng hindi magandang pangyayari, mahihirapan po silang mag-recover emotionally. Okay? And of course, okay, sila din po ay makakapag-experience ng mental problems. Okay? Alam na po natin noon, makakapag-experience sila ng anxiety, depression, and worse personality disorders. Ayan. So, ano ba yung mga adjectives na nagagamit sa pag-describe sa taong neurotic or mataas ang kanyang neuroticism? Sila po yung na-identify na moody, touchy, irritable, anxious, unstable, pessimistic, and complaining. Ayan. So, complaining. So, yung mga tao palang lagi na lamang nagko-complain, okay, ay mataas po ang kanilang neuroticism. Okay? Yan. Sa susunod, ang susunod naman ay yung development of neuroticism. Paano ba nadidevelop ang neuroticism? So, ang titingnan po natin dito ay yung biological theory at yung cognitive theories. Okay? Ayan. Tingnan po natin dito yung theory ni Eysenck. Okay? The limbic system is the part of the brain responsible for emotion and the flight or fight reaction. If someone has a limbic system that is easily activated, then that person probably has frequent episodes of emotion, particularly emotions associated with flight, such as anxiety, fear, and worry, and with fight, such as anger, irritation, and annoyance. So, high neuroticism persons or people are anxious, irritated, and easily upset because their limbic systems are more easily aroused to produce such emotions. Now, limbic system. Ano ba to? Let's look more, at our limbic system. Because the limbic system is located deep within the brain, its activity is not easily measured by EEG electrodes, which are placed on the surface of the scalp. So, newer brain imaging technologies such as MRI or PET are allowing personality researchers to test their theory directly. So, ano po sinasabi nito? Mahirap po palang i-test yung ating limbic system or i-measure, yung ating limbic system dahil nasa kailaliman po siya ng ating brain. So, hindi po dito pwedeng gamitin yung EEG electrodes lamang na inilalagay lamang dito sa ating scalp o sa ibabaw lamang ng ating ulo. So, maaring ngayon, ang ginagamit na nila ay ang MRI or PET, na maaari nang makita yung image ng ating limbic system. Okay? So, ayan. Tingnan po natin more, sa arguments ni Insik na pabor sa biological basis ng neuroticism. So, para sa kanya, meron palang biological basis, ang neuroticism. So, hindi na lamang basta naging neurotic ang isang tao. Merong biological basis. So, para sa kanya, neuroticism showed a high test-retest correlation after a period of 45 years. Ano pong sabihin nito? Ibig sabihin, halimbawa, ay nagkaroon po sila ng study. So, sa kanilang study na iyon ay after 45 years, nag-retest yung mga na-test noon 45 years ago at pakita siya ng similarity, doon sa resulta ng kanilang test result 45 years ago. Excuse me. A second argument is that neuroticism is a major dimension of personality that is found in many different kinds of data sets. Halimbawa nito ay yung self-report or yung peer report in many different cultures and environments by many different investigators. So, again, although this ubiquity does not prove a biological basis, the fact that neuroticism is so widely found across cultures and data sources is consistent with a biological explanation. So, iyon po yung explanation ni Insik. Ano po? Yung una, kanina, nakita natin na mayroon palang high test, retest ng 45 years, and yung resulta 45 years ago at yung ngayon ay nagpapakita po ng similarity in terms of neuroticism. Tingnan pa natin dito. Many genetic studies find that neuroticism shows one of the higher heritability values. Ang ibig sabihin nito ay maaari rin pala nating mamana, yung neuroticism. Trait negative affect shows relatively high levels of heritability, whereas trait positive affect shows a significant shared environment component. So, ibig sabihin, kapag ang negative affect ay namamana, yung positive affect naman natin ay maaaring ito ay natututunan natin, okay, dito sa environment natin, okay? So, kapag ang ating environment ay positive, laging positive, there is a big possibility na magkakaroon din po tayo ng positive affect. Now, let's look at the cognitive theories of neuroticism. Some personality psychologists have argued that the cause of neuroticism lies not so much in the biology of the limbic brain, but in the psychology of the person's overall cognitive system. These theories have argued that neuroticism is caused by certain styles of information processing, such as attending, thinking, and remembering. So, attending, thinking, and remembering. Okay, they are all examples of styles of information processing that some personality psychologists believe may contribute to the development of neuroticism. What is attending? This refers to the process of selectively focusing on certain stimuli in the environment while filtering out others. For example, a person high in neuroticism might attend more strongly to negative stimuli, such as criticism or danger, while downplaying or ignoring positive stimuli, such as praise or safety. Thinking. This refers to the cognitive processes involved in interpreting and making sense of information, including reasoning, problem solving, and decision making. Some theorists have suggested that people high in neuroticism may have a tendency to engage in negative thinking patterns such as catastrophizing, overgeneralizing, or dwelling on past mistakes. And remembering refers to the process of storing and retrieving information from memory. Some researchers have suggested that people high in neuroticism may be more likely to recall negative events and experiences while having difficulty remembering positive events or maintaining positive memories over time. To sum up, the idea behind cognitive theories of neuroticism is that certain patterns of information processing may contribute to a person's tendency towards negative emotions, anxiety, and instability. By identifying and changing these patterns, it may be possible to help people reduce their levels of neuroticism and improve their mental health. Now let's look at neuroticism and immune system. Research is showing that neuroticism does appear to be related to diminished immune function during stress. In a fascinating study by Marshland and colleagues, subjects underwent vaccination for hepatitis B and their antibody response to the injection was measured. This is a measure of how well the immune system responds to antigens in a vaccine. It was found that the subjects low in neuroticism mounted and maintained the strongest immune response to the vaccine. This finding suggests that the persons high in neuroticism may in fact be more susceptible to immune-mediated diseases. However, a 2020 meta-analysis of 165 studies found mixed evidence on the relationship between neuroticism and cancer. While some studies suggested a weak positive association between neuroticism and cancer risk, others found no significant relationship. The authors of the meta-analysis concluded that more research is needed to better understand the potential link between neuroticism and cancer. The current scientific evidence does not support a clear link between neuroticism and cancer risk. However, more research is needed to better understand the potential relationship between personality traits and cancer risk and to identify other factors that may contribute to cancer development. Now let's talk about depression. What is depression? In psychology, depression is a mental health disorder characterized by persistent feelings of sadness, hopelessness, and a lack of interest in activities that were previously enjoyable. It can also cause physical symptoms such as changes in appetite and sleep patterns, fatigue, and difficulty concentrating. Depression can have a significant impact on a person's daily life and relationships, and it is typically diagnosed through clinical interviews and assessments. Treatment may include therapy, medication, or a combination of both. Okay, let's look at depression and the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is the largest of the four major lobes of the brain and is located in the front part of the cerebral cortex. It is responsible for a range of higher cognitive functions such as problem solving, decision making, planning, personality motivation, and social behavior. The frontal lobe also plays an important role in motor control, including movement initiation and execution, as well as regulating emotions and inhibiting inappropriate behaviors. Damage or dysfunction in the frontal lobe can result in a range of neurological and psychological disorders, including personality changes, difficulties with executive functions, movement disorders, and emotional regulation problems. The prefrontal cortex is known not only to be involved in emotional responses, but also to have numerous connections with other parts of the brain that are responsible for controlling dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin, three neurotransmitters that are important in mood regulation. More specifically, the lateral prefrontal cortex seems to help us choose a course of behavior by letting us assess the various alternatives mentally. The orbitofrontal cortex seems to let us defer or delay certain immediate gratifications and suppress certain emotions in order to obtain greater long-term benefits. And the ventromedial cortex is thought to be one of the sites in the brain where we experience emotions and the meanings of things. The two halves of the prefrontal cortex also seem to have specialized functions, with the left that being involved in establishing positive feelings and the right half in establishing negative ones. And indeed, in depressed people, it is the left prefrontal cortex that shows the greatest signs of weakness. In other words, when people are depressed, they find it very hard not only to set goals in order to obtain rewards, but also to believe that such goals can be achieved. In healthy people, the left prefrontal cortex might also help to inhibit the negative emotions generated by limbic structures such as the amygdala, which show abnormally high activity in depressed patients. In patients who respond positively to antidepressants, this overactivity is reduced. And when the amygdala remain highly hyperactive despite antidepressant treatment, the likelihood of a patient relapsing into depression is high. Now let's look at the amygdala. The amygdala is a part of the brain that is involved in processing emotional information, particularly fear and anxiety. When the amygdala perceives a threat, it sends a signal to other areas of the brain, such as the hypothalamus and brainstem, that triggers the body's stress response, including the release of hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. According to American Psychiatric Association, these are the signs of depression. These signs of depression include having 5 or more of the following symptoms during the same 2-week period. First, depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day. Second, diminished interest or pleasure in most activities. Third, change in weight, significant weight loss when not dieting or a weight gain. Fifth, change in sleep pattern, insomnia or sleeping much more than usual. Sixth, change in movements, restlessness and agitation or feeling slowed down. Seventh, fatigue or loss of energy nearly every day. Eighth, feelings of worthlessness or guilt nearly every day. Ninth, diminished ability to concentrate or make decisions nearly every day. And 10th, recurrent thoughts of death or suicide. Now let's talk about anger. What is anger? It is a complex emotion that can be triggered by a variety of factors, including personal beliefs, past experiences, and external events. Anger is an emotion that causes some people to lose control. Now, what makes people angry? Some of the most common triggers of anger include feeling threatened or attacked, experiencing injustice or unfairness, feeling frustrated or powerless, or perceiving a loss of control. A recent research has also shown that genetics and brain chemistry can play a role in how a person experiences and expresses anger. One study published in the journal Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience in 2021 found that people who are prone to anger tend to have a hyperactive amygdala, a region of the brain associated with emotional processing. This heightened sensitivity of emotional or to emotional stimuli may make it easier for these individuals to become angry and more difficult for them to regulate their emotions. Another study published in the journal Personality and Individual Differences in 2020 explored the relationship between anger and personal values. The researchers found that people who placed a high value on power and achievement were more likely to experience anger in response to perceived threats or challenges to their status or authority. Potential for hostility. Hostility is a tendency to respond to everyday frustrations with anger and aggression, become irritable easily, feel frequent resentment, and act in a rude, critical, antagonistic, and uncooperative manner in everyday interactions. Psychologists have long been interested in what makes people hostile and aggressive. Social psychologists, for example, have examined conditions under which the average person will become aggressive. One finding is that most people are willing to strike out against someone who has treated them unfairly. A study on serial killers. Psychologist Jonathan Pincus has also specialized in the study of violent criminals. In a review of his work, Pincus 2001, he presents information on the lives of numerous serial killers, and in virtually all cases, these murderers suffered from some damage to their brains, either through violence, accidental injuries, or excessive drug or alcohol abuse. In addition, practically all of these murderers came from severely abusive families. In large studies, not every violent or sadistic person is found to have brain abnormalities. However, the rates of brain abnormalities are much higher in violent persons than in those persons without a history of violence. For example, in a study of 62 criminals in Japan, the researchers divided the inmates into those convicted of murder and those convicted of non-violent offenses. Brain abnormalities were much more frequent among the murderers than among the non-violent offenders. For example, sniffing glue or inhaling butane gas, which can induce intoxication similar to alcohol, can cause the kind of brain damage that has been related to antisocial behavior. Another example is a case report where a man developed a cyst in his brain. Prior to his development or to this development, he was not a violent person. However, after the cyst grew and presumably caused damage to his brain, he strangled his wife to death after she scratched his face. And a similar case is reported in Glenn and Rain 2014, along with actual brain scans of a 40-year-old man who, with no prior history, suddenly became sexually aggressive and was arrested. He was found to have a large tumor in his prefrontal cortex, and when it was removed, his behavior returned to normal, with none of the sexual inappropriateness that got him into trouble with the police. The kind of brain abnormalities found in violent and aggressive persons appears to involve decrements in the person's ability to inhibit or control aggressive impulses. We are done with the content of emotional life, the what of emotional life. Yes. So now let's proceed to style of emotional life or the how of emotional life. So, the style of emotional life refers to the characteristic ways in which a person expresses or manifests their emotions, rather than the specific emotions themselves. It compasses a variety of behavioral, cognitive, and physiological responses that can be observed or inferred by others, such as facial expressions, body language, verbal communication, coping strategies, and so on. The style of emotional life can be influenced by various factors, including personality traits, cultural norms, developmental experiences, social context, and individual differences in emotion regulation strategies. For example, some people may have an expressive style of emotional life, meaning that they tend to openly and visibly express their emotions through their facial expressions, tone of voice, and gestures. Others may have an avoidant style of emotional life, meaning that they tend to suppress or avoid their emotions or withdraw from social situations that might trigger them. Still, others may have an aggressive style of emotional life, meaning that they tend to act out their emotions in ways that are hostile, confrontational, or violent. Importance of understanding the style of emotional life. So, understanding the style of emotional life is important First, interpersonal communication. Second, social relationships. And mental health. So, by becoming more aware of our own emotional life or style, we can learn to regulate our emotions more effectively, communicate our feelings more clearly, and form more authentic and satisfying relationships with others. Now, let's talk about affect intensity. High affect intensity and low affect intensity are the topics we're going to discuss here. So, affect intensity can be defined by a description of persons who are either high or low on this dimension. Larson describes high affect intensity individuals as people who typically experiences their emotions strongly and are emotionally reactive and variable. High affect intensity subjects typically go way up when they are feeling up and go way down when they are feeling down. Low affect intensity individuals typically experience their emotions only mildly and with only gradual fluctuations and minor reactions. Such persons are stable and calm and usually do not suffer the throes of negative emotions. But they also tend not to experience the peaks of enthusiasm, joy, and other strong positive emotions. A questionnaire measure of affect intensity has been developed that allows a relatively quick assessment of a person's emotional style in terms of intensity. And high-scoring persons tend to exhibit physical symptoms that result from their chronic emotional lifestyles, such as muscle tension, stomach aches, headaches, and fatigue. Interviews with high-scoring persons usually show that they have no desire to change their level of emotional intensity. They seem to prefer the emotional involvement, the ups and downs, and the physiological arousal that accompanies their high emotional lifestyle. Low affect intensity individuals, on the other hand, are stable and do not typically get upset very easily. Even when negative events happen, they maintain an even emotional state and avoid the throes of negative effect or affect. Here's a research findings on affect intensity. In a daily study of mood, Larson, Diner, and Emmons had subjects record the events in their daily lives. 62 subjects recorded the best and the worst events of the day for 56 consecutive days, resulting in almost 6,000 event descriptions. The subjects also rated these events each day in terms of how subjectively good or bad the events were for them. The same event descriptions were rated later by a team of raters for how objectively good or bad they would be for the average college student. Well, results showed that the subjects high on the affect intensity dimension rated their life events as significantly more severe than did the low affect intensity subjects. Well, that is, events that were rated as only moderately good by the objective raters, such as receiving a compliment from a professor, were rated as very good by the high affect intensity subjects. Similarly, events that were rated as only moderately bad by the objective raters, such as losing a favorite pen, tended to be rated as very bad by the high affect intensity subjects. Thus, the high effect or affect intensity subjects tended to evaluate the events in their lives, both good and bad events, as having significantly more emotional impact than did the low affect intensity subjects. High affect intensity individuals are thus more emotionally reactive to the emotion-provoking events in their lives, both the good and the bad events. An aspect of these findings worth emphasizing is that high affect intensity individuals are more reactive to both positive and negative events in their lives. In other words, high affect intensity individuals should exhibit more moody variability or more frequent fluctuations in their emotional lives over time. So Larson found that individuals high on the affect intensity dimension do in fact exhibit more frequent changes in their moods, and that these changes tend to be larger in magnitude than are the mood changes of low affect intensity individuals. Lastly, let's look at the interaction of content and style in emotional life. So in this diagram, you can see that people who frequently experience positive affects with low affect intensity, will have emotional life experienced as contentment, easygoing, composure, serenity, and tranquil calmness. And with high affect intensity, emotional life experienced as exuberance, animated joyfulness, and zestful enthusiasm. Whereas, people who experience frequent negative affects with low affect intensity will have emotional life experienced as chronic melancholia, mild but persistent unhappiness, dejection, and discontentment. And with high affect intensity, their emotional life experienced as acute and agitated negative affect, distress, aggravation, depression, and episodes of strong anxiety. So, that's all. Thank you so much.